And hello, and welcome to American Amnesia. I'm Cliff Garner, your host. I'm going to do a real quick thing here on a cluster of issues that have come together over just just recently, and at least recently have been brought to my attention. And a couple things are very recent. Let me just jump right in and try to sort it out. It's a real mess. I'm going to warn you right now. But what I'm seeing here is rather well. It's interesting for one thing, but it surely has a greater repercussions in things like our foreign policy and the issues with Islam, particularly where our I guess you would say our alliances and loyalties will lie, and also where our heretofore alliances have been, and how these may be affected. I don't have any answers for those things yet, but I am aware of some things that are going on that I wasn't before, and these will they'll be subjects of things that in the future that I'll be working on and trying to determine what's really happening. So just to begin with, one of the things that's coming out about General Flynn is his connection to the Erdogan government and the fact that he had been receiving money from them, and that he was a hired lobbyist for Erdogan, and that he was directly trying to influence American policy vis-a-vis Turkey. Now, that said, there's issues regarding his firing that we may or may not actually know what's going on there. The ostensible reason for his firing was that he had not informed Vice President Pence over certain contact with the Russians, and that this, while he was exonerated by the FBI in that respect, at the same time that it was his falling afoul of Pence that caused his firing. And that's reasonable enough. I mean, the FBI did find that he was not guilty of any wrongdoing, and had he been, I'm sure that would have been raked all over the coals in the press. And so, as a consequence, there seems to be nothing there in that respect. However, with Turkey and stuff like this, there was no mention about any of this before. Well, there was. I mean, there were articles from last year about him and Turkey and things, but really that was always lost in the shuffle. The hysterics of the mainstream media have really rendered just about any possible criticism, valid criticism included, of the new president, pretty much rendered them invalid, and because of the just daily stupid, and I do mean stupid, raillery against the president. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, over a steak. It just doesn't make any sense. And the rest of the world knows about WikiLeaks too, by the way, and the fact that WikiLeaks has been pretty reliable. But our press doesn't seem to get it, and neither does a fairly large number of American citizens who claim to be educated and are proving to be actually, if educated, educated idiots. And that's really where way it seems to be going. So, at any rate, this whole connection between Flynn and Turkey, to me, is alarming. The fact is that he was calling for the extradition of Fethullah Gulen to Turkey, and Erdogan's been calling for this for quite some time now. In fact, he tried to encourage Gulen to come home of his own accord. Oh, come on home, come on home. You'll be okay. Everything's safe now. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And the thing is that the widening gap between Gulen and Erdogan is now a just outright, on Erdogan's part, outright war. And the condemnations have gone back and forth on both sides, but Erdogan has really been the one pushing the issue a lot more openly. With the Gulen, well, like I say, this is a very complex matter, and but the thing is that the thing between the two of them, they were both two of the founding members of the AKP, the AKP party that has been ruling Turkey for some time now, and it is an Islamicist party. It's also a direct offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which in Turkey never took root as like a secret society or a kind of a semi-secret brotherhood of types, but actually became a political party, and it has morphed from one party to another, and this is the current manifestation of it, but it went through several changes on its way. But that's the way the Muslim Brotherhood and its cluster of ideas took root in Turkey. It took root as a political movement, as opposed to an organization that was geared towards the promotion of a political party within whatever countries, including the country it was founded in originally, namely Egypt. That it became a party only recently with the Arab Spring, in which they were largely one of the bigger groups that was able to mobilize and topple Mubarak over there, and then they were replaced later on by the military, of course, with under al-Sisi. Of course, Erdogan had a lot to do with that. He was very responsible for the events that happened in Egypt. He was probably providing at least a certain amount of intelligence to the CIA that was working with the Muslim Brotherhood. But that whole Arab Spring thing was a pivotal event, not only for the world, but for Turkey in particular, because what had happened with Erdogan is that he went from maintaining a good neighbor policy with all his neighbors all through the region, to where he was a very aggressive player in toppling several of them, and probably including Tunisia, but I never really saw much information on that, because by the time it started, it was almost over. It was very quick in Tunisia, and it was the first of the many dominoes to fall in the Arab Spring. So there's a kind of shadowy information on it. But the next parts of the Arab Spring that came out were a lot clearer, and it was also obvious that with the aggressiveness with which Erdogan pursued this policy, that there was some kind of agreement that was made between him and then President Obama that caused him to do a 180-degree pivot on his foreign policy, particularly his regional policy in the Middle East, because he's right there. There was a profound change. And so he was actually actively working against Gaddafi, Mubarak, and also against Assad in Syria. And these three countries in particular would be very important to subsequent events that have come about, and with the rise of ISIS, which basically came from Saudi money given to the Turks to be distributed, and also that the Turks were to arm and to supply ISIS and al-Nusra, and supposedly whatever you want to call the FSA, the Free Syrian Army. Basically, they're just it's a name. Al-Nusra is basically al-Qaeda in Syria, and ISIS was al-Qaeda in Iraq. It was under Zarqawi, who was really actually even more radical than Osama bin Laden. He was also an alcoholic, probably purging his sins that way. And after his death, it eventually into the hands of al-Baghdadi, and they decided to take their franchise to Libya and into Syria, and they became even bigger. And like I say, the Muslim Brotherhood ties were directly involved in the toppling of Mubarak and the rise of whatever his name was in Egypt, and his fall because of his he pushed the Egyptian people too far, and the fall of the Muslim Brotherhood was their own fault, but Erdogan continually blamed the U.S. and Egypt, and he has just recently gotten to the point where he's even talking to Egypt again. I don't think that the relationship is very good between the two countries even now, and a lot of it has to do with his resentment of his party, the Muslim Brotherhood, failing in its own homeland, and that I think has been a real burr under his saddle for a while now. But the thing is that Erdogan has been backing ISIS. He's been funneling them back and forth between Iraq, Syria, and back and forth to Libya. And he's been doing this all along. And he's been taking people from Afghanistan and from Pakistan and wherever, and shipping them into either ISIS or shipping them overseas into Europe as so-called refugees. And he's been making billions of dollars off of the EU, milking them ever since. And that leads to another issue that is very recent. The riots in Holland, and it's interesting that the fellow his name's Ekim Alptekin, who's connected with the Turkish-U.S. Business Council. Mr. Alptekin is a Dutch-Turkish national. He's dual citizen, and kind of an interesting little coincidence there. I'm not sure that the issues going on there have anything much to do with that, but they do have a lot to do with the foreign minister of Turkey coming into Holland, and with the bullying, according to a lot of the EU member states, that Erdogan has done within the EU of late. First of all, with the so-called refugees, because really they're not even Syrians for the most part, but basically he's using them to extort money from Europe, and supposedly in order to take them back. Now dig that. To take them back if they're troublemakers. You see how much that's really worth, but he's milked them for about $6 billion so far. And not only that, he's been throwing his weight around in Europe. He went after that comedian in Germany, and he's done some other things too as well. And the Europeans are not happy with him. Matter of fact, they're really PO'd at him. And I understand that's a lot to do with what's going on there right now. I haven't had much chance to look into it, but there have been riots there. There have been protests also in Italy against the so-called refugees. And there are refugees, and some of them are actually even Syrian. And this has been a real tragedy in that respect. But the thing is that I think there's less reason to move those people out of their country and move them elsewhere outside of the fact that somebody's gaining a profit out of it. And I think Mr. Erdogan is one of the main ones. And that's serious business. This is slave labor, people. That's what it is. Slave labor. And Mr. Erdogan has taken advantage of the Syrian people for a long time already. And he's been using their women in his houses of prostitution and on the streets. Same with their children, little boys and little girls. This is sick. It has to stop. Those of you who keep pushing the issue on bringing refugees into the U.S., do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what you're talking about? You know what you're dealing with. You know, when you open the borders up and you're letting people through like you are bringing in children. You do know that. I hope you do. And I hope it sears your conscience. I hope it burns in your brain and in your heart. Because those people are being exploited. And you are trying to do it too. It's wrong. Anyway, there's other issues involved as well. And one of them is the recent firing of several U.S. attorneys by Jeff Sessions. And the one that had my attention is Preet Bharara. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And he actually, I'm quite a fan of his. He has done some really, really incredible stuff over the years as far as real investigation into real crimes, and he's not afraid to go after the big ones. But he was an Obama appointment, and so as a consequence, that there's been some problems there. Originally, apparently, Trump had talked to Bharara and agreed to keep him on. And something has either changed or has been caused it to be abrogated or whatever. But apparently, when the request for resignations came in, apparently he refused to do it. Probably, I shouldn't even say that. Possibly on the basis of some prior agreement, but he has been fired since then. And that firing was not for sure for a pretty good while there, but it looks like it's for real. And I have to say, my first impression is disappointment, but I don't know what's going on, and so I can't really second guess very well at this point. However, one of the things that Bharara did was he arrested a fellow named Reza Zarrab. This has been, I think it's been about 2 years ago now. And he's the chief prosecutor in this case. And he's being tried here in the U.S. on charges of fraud, a violation of sanctions on Iran, committing bankruptcy, fraud, and laundering money. And this comes from Erdogan buying, actually breaking the embargo on Iran prior to 2013, because in I think it was December, might have been late November, I think it was early December of 2013 is when there was a big hiccup on the gold exchange, international gold market actually, that was coming from them laundering money, actually gold, in exchange for from gold from Turkey in exchange for oil from Iran. And this caused a huge bubble in the market in gold, and a lot of people lost their savings basically because of this the adjustment that came. And this gold market issue was a pretty big deal for just a very short time, and it was out of the news very suddenly. And the reason why is because, and I made that prediction back then to friends that it was because Obama was wanting to make a deal with Iran, and he was going to need Erdogan to help him to do it. And so instead of raking Erdogan over the coals like he should have for violating the whole thing, he let him off the hook, and that led to the sending billions of dollars and gold and all kinds of other currencies and everything else on plane loads that were sent to Iran just recently. That's the connection of that right there. And the person that set it up was Reza Zarrab, and he was Erdogan's buddy boy. He was the one where when Erdogan's son, and you can actually find this on YouTube. You might take a little looking to get it, but it has Erdogan and his son talking, and the son is asking him, "Daddy, how do I zero out all the billions of dollars in shoe boxes?" No kidding, it's there. And any rate, that's also part of why Fethullah Gulen was revealing the gross corruption that Erdogan was promoting within the borders of Turkey. This was right there in the middle of all that. It also accelerated him bringing about the dictatorship because the prosecutors were hot on his trail and trying to bring him down. He was kind of like what we were seeing with Hillary Clinton trying to win the election to keep from being possibly prosecuted in the near future, which is probably a lot of why we're getting all this silliness right now from the mainstream press, is to try to delay that as much as possible. So, at any rate, this connection between Erdogan and Zarrab and the calls for Gillen, he started calling for Gillen again. He demanded that Bharara send him back to Turkey, which he refused to do. Is that why Bharara has been fired? I don't know. Is there some other deal going on? I don't know. I have the feeling that Erdogan is not very happy with the way things are going with the Trump administration now. And I don't know where all this fits in. It might even be something completely different that triggered this the firing that Bharara had today. It could be Schumer. Schumer might be the reason why he has been let go. The Schumer and Bharara are very close. And Schumer was behind his being hired on in the first place. So we'll see how things kind of shake out. I'm going to keep an eye on this because there are ramifications and things that I'm very interested in finding out. But I don't know a whole lot yet. And I'm kind of laying it out there for you to take a look at and examine. I will contain links to a couple things on the Sessions firings, and they'll have a couple on that and a couple on the angle with Flynn. And but I do want to make sure that the angle with Bharara and Zarrab are included in what you can examine very easily. I have four links that I'll set up with the posting of this video here, and that's pretty much all I've got right now. But I'm rather expecting to see some things start shaking out on this. It should prove interesting. So until next time, we'll see you.